Most people think that having one stable job is the safest thing you can do for your financial future, but I think that's actually one of the biggest risks that you can take. If just one company is paying 100% of your entire income, then essentially your whole financial life depends on the decisions of one company and one person in the company. So the smart way to get out of this reliance is to build multiple income streams. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how I personally went from having one salary to multiple income streams. And most importantly, not just what this income stream should be, but how do you actually start from zero and create these multiple sources for yourself. And before we get into it, just a quick introduction. My name is Inga and you're so welcome on this channel if this is your first time here. And if you don't already know me, I quit my corporate job in London 6 years ago to really start creating that life of freedom for myself. And since then, I have been building my personal income and wealth from multiple different sources: freelancing, consulting, coaching, digital products, memberships, and probably some other things that I will get into later on in this video. My whole purpose here really is to show people that there are alternatives to the 9-to-5 system and that you don't need to climb the corporate ladder just because everyone else around you is doing it. So I want to show you how I got out of the corporate system and how I've really been able to create this life for myself where I have so much freedom and flexibility over my time, what I do, what I work on, where I am, how I travel, and I want you to be able to do that for yourself as well. So let's get into this video. So the very first thing I want you to do is stop thinking about just making money. I bet your goal is not to have multiple income streams just for the sake of having multiple income streams. And the goal is also not to just have more money. Like, why do you want the money? For me, that answer has always been freedom. Like, I want to be able to not have to wake up with an alarm clock. I want to be able to have slow mornings. I want to be able to be spontaneous. Like, if I don't want to work on a random Tuesday, I want to be able to not work on the random Tuesday, if you know what I mean. So the very first thing for you is to actually understand, what is your why? Like, why are you watching this video? Why do you want to have multiple income streams? Why do you want to have more money? Is it the freedom of choices, the freedom of time, maybe the freedom of location? Maybe you have another goal in mind. And this really has to be the foundation, because this is how you're going to decide for yourself how to actually start adding different income streams for yourself, because everyone's goals are different. Personally, for me, when I started my freedom and entrepreneurial journey, my main priority initially was the location freedom. Because I started during COVID, and at the time I was renting an expensive apartment in London. And if you're from the UK, you know how crazy the London property prices are. And my employer at the time would not allow us to work remotely. It was just not a thing in like early 2020, right? It only became a thing later on. And I just felt like spending so much money for this apartment just to literally sit in the apartment the whole day, every single day. I don't want to do it. So this was what forced me to start looking for ways to be able to have that location freedom, but also be able to make money so I can sustain the life that I want to live. So COVID really was the push for me to start exploring options outside the normal 9-to-5 structure. And this is how I eventually ended up with freelance consulting. But the freelance consulting wasn't actually my first additional income stream. The very first thing that changed for me on this bigger journey of having multiple income streams was my relationship with money. Because before, for the majority of my life, and definitely for my entire career, the way I related to money was that the money came in, my salary, and then it would go out. And that was just the pattern every single month. Maybe sometimes I was able to put something aside, but to be quite honest, most of the time I still had to rely on credit cards and accumulating credit card debt to actually be able to live a decent life because I was in London, and London is very expensive, if you know, so it was quite tough to survive on my salary. But at one point, I started getting more exposed to people who had very different financial paths than I had had. People who had somehow been able to save multiple five figures or even more, people who had started investing, and I had no clue about any of that. But this idea of making money and then being able to make that money grow for you was really fascinating for me. So I started learning a lot about investing, and eventually I also started investing a little bit. In the very beginning, I was just investing very, very small amounts, like maybe £50 here and there into random things. Like I didn't really have a system or a structure. But after I quit my job and I started making more money as a freelance consultant, I suddenly also had more money to invest. And that's when I really went all in and put a big chunk of everything that I was making into investments, mostly ETFs, because I just believe that's the easiest and safest choice, and you know you're going to get good returns in the long run. And that was my strategy at the time. So the step 2 that I actually want to share with you is to start investing wherever you are on your corporate career entrepreneurial journey. It doesn't really matter. Just start investing. That is honestly what should be everyone's additional income stream, regardless of what you do. So see if you already have like a chunk of money set aside that you could start investing with if you aren't already. If you don't have that, then you can just see what is the smallest possible amount that you can put aside to start investing. There's a lot of platforms where you can start investing even with just, I don't know, $20. Like you really don't need much, but that's something that will eventually start bringing you in money, and you're building wealth in the long term. The step 3 is to find ways how you can make more time for yourself to start working on these additional income streams. For me, that meant going from the 9 to 5 to freelance consulting, because I was making even more than I was in my old salary, but I was only working half the time. And that is the beauty of being a consultant. You will be essentially doing the same work that you're already doing, but for multiple different companies on reduced hours, while getting paid at least double the amount, sometimes triple, sometimes even more. It really depends on your industry and your skills, but this is something almost everyone can do. And the great thing is that you are getting back so much time, which then allows you to start working on the extra income streams. And if you don't really know what is freelance consulting and how to actually get into it, then you can comment below and I'll make another separate video about that. So once you have reached this place where you have the income and you also have the time, this is where you can start building these other income streams for yourself. And to be honest, this step 4 is going to be more personalized to your journey. What you like, what you don't like, what you want to do, how much time you want to spend on things, how much you want to invest, because there are thousands of ways people can make money, and it's all so personal to who you are and what your goals are. I'm going to share a bit what that journey looked like for me personally, but this is not to say that you have to follow the same path. There are multiple different paths, and as I said, it really depends on what makes sense for you. So in my personal case, as I started freelance consulting and I was able to travel, I was able to have like this complete new life that was just unimaginable. And I didn't have any entrepreneurial or freelance friends around me at the time. So naturally, everyone I knew started asking me like, how are you doing this? Like, how did you get started? How do you get clients? How did you register your business? All these questions that I could now answer. And at some point, there were just so many questions that I thought, wow, okay, I think I could actually start coaching now. So coaching became my next income stream. I set up a coaching business, and in the beginning, what I was doing was teaching women how to start investing, because I really believe that this is the first fundamental step that everyone has to take. And after that, I slowly got more into the business coaching part. In the beginning, I was just doing courses online, a couple of one-on-one clients here and there, but there wasn't really a system around it. So what I thought about doing was to start my Instagram account to then be able to, first of all, consolidate a lot of the knowledge that I had, be able to reach more people, and basically create a system around my coaching business. And naturally, as I started doing content creation on social media, that had the potential to become another income stream for me. I'll be honest, I'm not making money from posting online. Maybe if I had started YouTube earlier and done it properly, this could be an actual source of income, but Instagram does not pay you. You're just doing this for the sake of building your personal brand, making sure more people know about you and what you do, and then eventually getting opportunities, partnerships, clients, and everything else from that platform. And as you can imagine, once you have a personal brand around a certain thing, you can start offering multiple different types of products. So this could be courses, one-on-one mentoring, digital products, really depends on what you want to do. You can also do all of this. I wouldn't recommend doing it all at the same time. For me, initially, it was just one-on-one mentoring. And then eventually, when I felt like I could do more now, I also created a digital product, and now I also have a community membership. And there's a lot of other things you can do once you have a personal brand. A lot of people online also do brand partnerships, they do affiliate marketing, and probably a lot of different things. It's really up to you what you want to do and what makes sense for you and your personal brand and also your business. But this is just to show you that you can also get to this point and it's not actually that hard. Obviously, you want to start with the fundamentals, but then just take it one step at a time. I wouldn't recommend starting building 5 income streams all at once because your attention will be scattered across a lot of different things, and that way probably none of these things will be good. But if you make one thing work first, it's actually going to be easier to also build on top of that. So look at my case. I used my corporate experience and skills that I already had to create my freelance consulting business. Then the results and experience that I have from my freelance consulting business enabled me to start my coaching business. And once I started coaching, there are so many different ways how you can coach people. It doesn't have to be one-on-one. There's a little different modalities, as I mentioned. Then you start also creating your personal brand that feeds into these other businesses that you already have. And that personal brand can then attract more opportunities and more income streams to you. In the future, I will absolutely be also creating more income streams. Like one of the things I really want to do is to start buying property, and that's going to be another income source for me. So if I was starting from zero again today, the very first step I would do is to actually figure out what are my goals? Like, why do I even want to have this wealth and these multiple income streams? Like, what is the whole point of this? And then from there, you can slowly start creating those multiple income streams for yourself. There's a lot of things you can do without quitting your job. You can absolutely build multiple income streams while still being employed. I'm not saying that's not possible. I just felt for me, I needed more time to be able to work on all these different things. So for me, one of the first natural steps was to actually get out of the 9-to-5 and start building my own business. But this journey looks very different for everyone. You shouldn't just go and copy someone else's success just because you think they're cool and what they say makes sense. You really need to start from where you are and identify first where you want to go, and then you build from there. I hope this video was helpful, and I'll see you next time.